All right, let's switch to the Republicans. I don't know if you guys up in D.C. have seen the cover of the New York Daily News. You've probably seen it on TV several times. It says, "Take the FU train, Ted." Obviously, some in New York not very happy with Senator Cruz's characterization of what he called New York values. Is this going to hurt Ted Cruz? Let me ask Rebecca first.
I'd say absolutely, and we're seeing it hurt him already. It's just a tailor-made line for Donald Trump, and now John Kasich actually is jumping in and using it against Ted Cruz. I think when Ted Cruz started using the New York values line, this was much earlier in the campaign when we were looking at his performance in states like Iowa, very, very far from New York City. Many people didn't think that the campaign would last as long as it has. Now we see those comments coming home to roost for Ted Cruz. But frankly, New York was not a state where Ted Cruz was expected to do well in the first place. So he's hoping to get just as many delegates as he's able to and then move on to states where he's going to be stronger. Donald Trump, no doubt about it, really has a strong advantage going into New York no matter what.
Amber, some people don't always realize that New York is not just Manhattan. There's an enormous state beyond the borders of New York City. For example, my in-laws live up in Rochester, and that's very much Ted Cruz country, I would imagine. So is he hoping to perhaps keep his campaigning to sort of the middle part of the state as opposed to here in the boroughs?
Yeah, well, I think that's the way it works for any, more socially conservative candidate who knows that, city values, to use his own phrase, kind of don't work against him, and more rural values, tend to favor his kind of policies. But I think Ted Cruz's message at this point comes down to one simple thing. I'm the best chance for you guys have to get rid of Donald Trump and be the Republican presidential nominee. I may not win the nomination outright, but look at, at the delegates that I'm collecting. And when we go to Cleveland in July, I'm just the next logical choice because I, have the second most delegates. I think that's Ted Cruz's best case right now for getting, your in-laws in Rochester, if they're Republican, to vote for him. If they really, truly don't like Donald Trump, what do you have left? Ted Cruz.
Yeah, and Rebecca, it did seem to me that Senator Cruz was prepped for this. He knew he was going to come into this state having made those remarks. And it was interesting, at least to me, to see him paint New York values by looking to some disgraced politicians, including Eliot Spitzer and Anthony Weiner. In other words, for people to say, okay, that's what he means. He means guys who, have done some things that are pretty despicable.
Right. So it seems from this vantage point that Ted Cruz thinks the best strategy for him in New York to scrape together as many delegates as he possibly can is to try to portray Donald Trump as basically a New York liberal in disguise as a Republican. And we've seen him try to use this tack in some other states, and it didn't work as well. Maybe by tying Donald Trump to these politicians who he has actually donated money to, as Ted Cruz has pointed out on the campaign trail, Donald Trump has donated money to these New York Democrats in the past. He's hoping to really illustrate that theme to people. But really, we're looking at him potentially scraping together just a few delegates from congressional district to congressional district. This is still not going to be enough to boost him to actually win the state.
All right. To be continued. Rebecca Berg from Real Clear Politics, Amber Phillips from the Washington Post. Thank you both for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.